My name is Jonathan White. I'm Professor of Politics at the European Institute of the London School of Economics and Political Science. Welcome to my exp. So in terms of what emergency politics might mean, I would tend to understand it as when actions departing from convention, whether that's the law or simply the normal way of doing things in politics, are rationalized as urgent and necessary in order to fend off some type of threat. So one might put it as a simple formula that exceptional times demand exceptional measures, and those exceptional times could be any number of things. I guess conventionally, classically, the context would often be war or civil war or some type of natural disaster, perhaps also an economic crisis. And then the other half of the formula, that some kind of exceptional measures are apparently required under those circumstances. And those might, again, be any number of things, but where often it could be about concentrating power in a certain leader or a small group of leaders, perhaps with the idea of speeding up decision-making so that some crisis situation requires a speedy response. It could perhaps also be an understanding that under those conditions, leaders should be relatively unencumbered to act on their discretion, that they should be, for example, able to step outside the law or step outside the normal procedures of politics, whether that's decision-making to do with parliaments or the judiciary, that in one way or another, they should be less constrained than they would be under normal circumstances. I think this is quite a topical theme at the moment. One way of thinking about politics in the 21st century is to say it's all been emergency politics, almost from the very beginning. Starting off with September the 11th, 2001, certainly in the intellectual reflections on politics, that moment coincides with a great deal of interest in ideas of emergency rule, return to some of the classics of thinking about exceptionism. But it's not just 9/11, it's of course the economic crisis that broke with 2008, the financial crash and everything that followed it. It's most recently COVID-19 and everything that makes up the story of 2020. And then, of course, there are other episodes within that period where perhaps the crisis is less obvious. The critic might even say somewhat constructed. So I'm thinking of migration politics in the mid-2010s, around 2015, where I think you see much, again, of this formula of departing from normal forms of politics because the situation is said to require it. So emergency politics, as I said, it's about concentrating power. That often means a politics which brings executive actors to the fore. So it could be about individual leaders or executive power in general. Very often on the understanding that this is a temporary situation. In other words, I think it's already in the logic of exceptional times requiring exceptional measures, that at some point one will move beyond that the exception will be concluded. And so many efforts to think more theoretically about emergency politics have often included this notion that it's temporary and perhaps derives its legitimacy from the fact that it's temporary. It's often added to that whatever is done in an exceptional period should not have lasting consequences, that it should be reversible, that it should not change the constitution, for example, of a state, and therefore that after the exceptional moment, after a period of exceptional measures, it should be possible to revert to something like the status quo ante. Now, of course, that may be the ideal, but of course, whether that's always possible in practice or whether that's what those who are in charge of emergency politics would like to actually see, that's often less clear. And that's why emergency politics has often been a source of concern for those who have wanted to theorize it. It's been something that needs to be regulated, or at least that one should be aware of the potential costs that come with some notion of unconstrained power, even for a delimited period.